Please excuse the hair, but here is part one of Who the Fuck Did I Marry? So I met my ex-husband around March 4th of 2020. We met on Facebook dating site, and we also matched on Hinge. I did not realize that he was on both under two different names. So one was his actual name, and the other one was a variation, like a nickname that he called himself. Different pictures. So it was a running joke between us. Oh, you ain't even recognize that you had matched with me on Hinge. No, I didn't. And also that should have been a red flag. By the way, you will notice in this story, I called it the United Nations of red flags. It is so many red flags that, I mean, you would have thought I was colorblind because I ignored all of them. So anyway, back to the story. We met around March 4th. We exchanged phone numbers. He called me and we talked on the phone for the first time. In the first phone call, he told me that he had just moved to Georgia from California, from San Diego. His job had transferred him because he was being transferred in as the new regional manager for a major condiment company that is based here in Georgia. I'm not going to say the name. And so we also talked about his childhood. He told me he grew up in Philly. He's from Philly. Both of his parents were deceased. This is the first phone call. Both of his parents were deceased. His father was a Philadelphia police officer. His mom was a teacher. He also told me he briefly lived in Augusta with his family. He had 2 brothers and 2 sisters. He also had 2 half-brothers on his dad's side. First phone call. So I'm just giving you guys the backstory. This was the first phone call we had. So we talked about family. We talked about friends. We talked about our jobs. At the time, I was working at Georgia State Patrol. And he knew this, and he just thought that was like, wow, so you work with troopers all day. Yes, I did. Also in that phone call, he explained to me that he used to play football. He explained that he used to play arena football. I know nothing about arena football. I know about NFL. I know about college. Go Dogs. But I don't know anything about arena football. So he explained to me that he used to play arena football. He used to work at Apple in the off season of arena football. And I remember thinking on that phone call, oh, okay, good for you. I don't know anything about arena football. And I believe I did tell him that. I don't know anything about arena football. That'll come into play later on. So he told me, I just moved here. My job is paying for my housing and they're helping me to look for a house. He was like, right now I'm in Gwinnett County, but I'm trying to look for a house ideally in Atlanta, like Brookhaven, Sandy Springs. He was like, I really would like to move out there. And so I thought, that's great. You're looking to get a house. You just moved here. He was like, I don't really know too many people here because I spend all my time at work and, this job is really demanding. So that was our first phone call. We talked more. He talked a lot, which took me by surprise because I'm not really used to men talking more than me. He eventually asked me out on a date. Our first date was set for Saturday, March 7th, 2020. He asked me what was my favorite restaurant. I said Cheesecake Factory. And so we agreed to go out at the Cheesecake Factory in a location that was in between. I lived in Clayton County at the time. He lived in Gwinnett County. I realized that if you don't know anything about Metro Atlanta, that makes no sense. But basically, we lived about 45 minutes apart. So we agreed to meet at the Cheesecake Factory over at Perimeter Mall, which is in an area, Sandy Springs, Dunwoody area. I was excited. Like, I called my friends and was like, I got a date, you know, blah, blah, blah. We'll see how it goes. First conversation was good. Hopefully he looks like his pictures, because, you know, that's always an issue with online dating. Hopefully he looks like his pictures. So on my way to our date, I took 285, and literally right before I got to Boulder Crest, the exit for Boulder Crest, I heard a boom, and I lost control of my car. Thank God that well, not thank God, but I knew what to do. So I did not crash, but my tire blew out. So I called him and I said, hey, I'm so sorry, but my tire just blew on 285. I'm slowly making my way off the exit. I believe I pulled into a Chevron gas station. And I said, you know, I got to get this fixed. I don't know what to do. Like, I'm a damsel in distress kind of thing. He kind of paused. He got quiet, and he was like, you know, tell me exactly where you are. Drop your pin. So I dropped the pin, and he came to the gas station. Got out the car, and I was so relieved that he actually looked like his pictures, that I was like, oh my God, he's actually attractive, because he's like 6'4", 6'5". Oh, also, man, I apologize. So let me go back to the first conversation. Let me add something. He did tell me in the first phone call that he was divorced, and that his ex-wife, she had 2 children, a boy and a girl, who were teenagers, young adults. I think the girl was about 20. And he said that he had a very close relationship with his stepkids. But that he and his ex-wife had divorced because she cheated on him out in California. And so coming to Georgia was a new beginning for him. She was still out in California. The kids were still out in California. And so, you know, he was like, I can't stand her, but I still want to be in the kids' lives. I have to put that in there because that will come back later. So this is just setting the stage. Again, that first conversation we talked about family, job, friends, how he ended up in Georgia, me being in Georgia, the things that, you know, I would think people talk about in the first conversation. All right, now back to the tire blew out. So he shows up to the gas station. He changes my tire, which I just thought was the sexiest thing in the world. And then he proceeds to say, hey, I found a tire place around the corner. You need to get another tire. Like, you can't drive on this donut. So he followed me to the tire place, and then helped me get a tire, paid for it. So I was definitely like, wow. And so the vibe was good. So anyway, I get the tire fixed. We follow each other to the Cheesecake Factory over in Perimeter. We hold hands walking into the Cheesecake Factory. So in my mind, I'm like, this. Oh my God, I had butterflies. That's the look of a woman who had butterflies. So I had butterflies. And we go in. There's a long wait. And so we sit outside and we just talk. And the conversation's great. And this is where he tells me what it is he's looking for. He tells me, you know, I believe at the time he was 42. He was like, I want to get married and it be for real. He's like, my parents were married 40 plus years before my mom passed away. And I want that. I want marriage, family, a house. Like, that is what I want. He was like, I'm as a man, I'm ready to get married, but I want it to be for real, because the first time, you know, it really hurt me when she cheated on me. So he's telling me everything that I wanted to hear. And so he was like, what is it that you want? And I said pretty much the same thing. I was like, I'm ready to get married. Definitely want to have a family. And I want to marry my best friend. So we both put on the table that we wanted marriage. And this is the end of part one. All right, who the fuck did I marry? Part two. So we both put on the table what it is that we wanted. We both had established we were dating for marriage. We were not dating just to date. We were not trying to be friends with benefits and none of that. So the dinner at Cheesecake Factory went really well. We laughed, we joked, we talked about people, which is kind of up my alley, my sense of humor. It was a good vibe. So at the end of the date, or excuse me, at the end of dinner, we sat in his car and he played this song for me by John Legend. I don't know the name of the song. By the time this video posts, I will put the name at the bottom. I can't remember the song. I just remember that John Legend was talking about, I think I met my wife tonight. And I thought it was a sign. So I was like, oh my God. So anyway, we ended up sitting in the car talking just about life and experiences until about midnight. So during this conversation, he again is telling me how it was, what it was like living in California, how he went out there, he went to San Diego State, he played football for San Diego State. He talked about how, he loved it out there, so he stayed. That's when he joined the company. And then he explained that he also did arena football, but only did it for about 2 or 3 years. He claims that while he was doing arena football, the team that he was on won a championship. But again, keep in mind, I don't know anything about arena football. So I was like, okay, I didn't know that they had championships. And he was like, he got a little offended, like, yeah, they got championships. And, he was on that team. So he talked to me about how he worked at Apple. He worked something in the IT area of Apple, but within the store. Again, it was one of those, it's like when I tell people I used to work at Amazon. I really wasn't paying much attention to it. Why? So we talked about all that. We talked deeply into what happened with the ex-wife. It's because I asked. He was not volunteering all this information. So in other words, I get very uncomfortable when men start talking about their ex a lot. That's not what happened. I was asking questions because I was really trying to figure out, okay, are you ready for a relationship, or are you still missing her? So we talked about that. We talked about my exes. That was a mistake I made because I talked about how I dated at one point in time somebody I worked with. That will come back later. And he seemed real cool about it. He was like, that was before me and blah, blah, blah. So the conversation was good. Midnight comes and I go home. Yes, I went home. We ended up talking. Mind you, our first date was March 7th. And within about 2.5 weeks, Brian Kemp, our governor, shut Georgia down. We were going to be on lockdown. So during those 2.5 weeks, we talked every day. We went out again at Red Lobster. I remember Red Lobster. But everything was going great. The issue was, where are we going to quarantine? So the question was, are we going to quarantine at his place, which he had like a studio type of situation. Like, it clearly, where he was staying, I was like, it's like a studio apartment, but he kept telling me like, this is temporary because I'm looking for a house. Like, he showed me the email from a woman who worked at the company where she was out on maternity leave, but she was putting him in contact with a realtor to help him find a townhome or a single family house. So I was just like, okay, this is definitely temporary. Like, he's not trying to stay here long term. and she was apologizing in the email. I'm so sorry, you know, this should have been taken care of before you got here, but it wasn't, da 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 da. I saw the email. I read it. I read the email. So the decision was, we're going to quarantine at the studio, or we're going to quarantine in my house? First mistake I made. Well, there's a lot, but this was a mistake I made. So ladies, caution moment. During one of our dates, because keep in mind, in those 2 weeks, we were seeing each other quite a bit. Nothing physical or anything like that. Just two people who I thought were really on some, all right, let's see if this is going to grow into something. He came to my house. When he came to my house, I had a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath townhome. He was in a studio. Now, I'm telling you guys all of this in order of how it happened. So some things I'm probably going to insert what I was thinking and the mistake I made. Can I turn this off? No. Okay, I still need that. And I say that to say that I did not realize inviting him to my home probably made his eyes go, oh shit, she's a keeper. She got this 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath townhouse, and I'm in like a little studio. Yeah, let me go ahead and pursue this. What I need to do to quarantine here. The decision was made, quarantine at my house. So the state went on lockdown. He came and stayed with me in my home, and for the most part, in the initial beginning, it was fine. It was fine. The reason why I hesitate is because I grew up in the church. So for me, it was really like an internal struggle of, bruh, you always said you would never live with a guy unless he was your husband. And now you living with a dude and he ain't your husband. Like, it was a struggle for me because I knew better. And don't come for me. I'm just telling you the way I grew up. It was like that. It was not sitting right with me. But at the same time, I didn't want to quarantine by myself. I did not want to. So there we go. So he moved in. We talked about the bills. Let me clear something up that I said in the other video where I said he paid all the bills. He paid all the household bills. He did not pay my car payment, my cell phone, or my car insurance. He paid the rent, because my rent at the time was less than $1,000. He paid the utility bills. And so when he's telling me that he's a regional manager, I was like, wow, okay, so you got money. And so he paid all the household bills. So my check really was just taking care of me, myself, and I. And I am not, this is where it's not gonna make me look good, but it's the truth. It was intoxicating to not have to worry financially about how to pay the bills. It was a wonderful feeling. And so I kind of pushed to the side the fact that, yeah, you shacking up, because it's like, but your page, you don't have to worry right now. Like, he's taking care of all of April's bills before April even comes, because this was still March. So we're living together, and I'm cooking, I'm cleaning, he's helping to cook and clean, and then we have a conversation about house. Is he still going to buy a house just for him, or is he going to buy a house where it's for us? Because we are going to try to make this thing work, be official, get married, have a family. So the question now on the table is, what are we going to do? Because I didn't want to stay in Riverdale, Georgia. I did not want to raise a family there. I refused to have a baby in Clayton County. So the decision was made, let's start looking for a house for both of us. Remember, he was already looking for a house for him, but then he was like, you know what, we're together, I plan to marry you, let's look for a family home for the two of us. He was like, this is how much I was approved for. That's when he showed me the Chase paperwork. It was a letter stating that and it had the Chase emblem at the top. He showed me a letter stating that he was approved for $700. All right, part 3, who the fuck did I marry? So this is when he showed me a letter from Chase with the Chase logo at the top, stating that he had been approved for a mortgage for a $750,000 mortgage, or a $750,000 house. So he was like, we can't go over $750,000. And I said, I remember asking him, can you afford the mortgage on a $750,000 house? Because I know I can't. This is when he explains to me, I told you how I played arena football. I invested my money really well. So he said, I have money that will help pay for the mortgage. He was like, we're good. Like, I'm financially, I am okay. He was like, that's why I'm able to get approved for $750,000 mortgage. So he told me that his money was in different savings accounts. He said he had an account with Chase Bank, he had an account with US Bank, and he had an offshore account. This is what he told me. The offshore account, I was like, why? And he explained something about, the US, the US imposes taxes on money when you have a certain amount in US banks. He was like, so everybody knows that it's smart to have some money in an offshore account. Y'all, look, I live paycheck to paycheck. I was like, okay, that's whatever. I said, so you have the money to pay for a home. I'm also holding in my hand a letter from Chase saying that he was approved for $750,000. So I went off of what I saw. So we contacted a realtor. I won't say his name, but man, if he ever sees this TikTok, I owe this man such an apology. But we contacted a realtor who was based in Cobb County, because I was very adamant I wanted to move back to Marietta, Smyrna area in Cobb County, Georgia. He was fine with that. His whole attitude was, you're going to be my wife, happy life. So we met a realtor. I would find houses that I wanted to tour. Keep in mind that this was COVID. So at the time, we could not tour a home. It would have to be a virtual tour. So this particular realtor, we found a house in Douglasville, Georgia. Not Cobb County, but nevertheless, it's in Douglasville. I was fine with Douglasville. So we found a house in Douglasville, Georgia. The realtor did a FaceTime tour of the house. The house was a nice home. 5 bedrooms, 4 baths. So we did a FaceTime tour of the home, and the home was listed, I believe, roughly 400 and something thousand. I really liked the house. I could see myself living there. I could see us living there. Could see us with the kid there. This is now April, just for timeline purposes. This is April. So he really liked the house. He was like, you know what, we'll put an offer in on the house. He was like, if you like it, because again, it was COVID, we weren't going to be able to see the house in person because the family still lived there. So he said, I'll put an offer in. We'll see if it's accepted. I said, okay. So he puts an offer in. He's telling me he put an offer in. I need to clarify some things he told me and the things that I actually saw. So for this house in Douglasville, he told me he was putting an offer in. The realtor would call me, because one thing that the realtor told us, he was like, if the woman likes the house, typically the house is going to get bought. So he kind of dealt with me a bit more than he did my ex-husband. And again, this is April 2020. This is before we got married. So at the time, he was my boyfriend. So the realtor was calling me and was like, hey, I put the offer in, and what they're asking for is proof of funds. And I did not know anything at this time about buying a house. So I was like, hey, you probably need to talk to him, because I'm not even listed on the mortgage. Like, from the paperwork I saw, it was only in his name. So he called him. I guess they talked. I was not there, but I'm assuming that they had talked. So the boyfriend is coming, my ex is coming home saying, yeah, I talked to so-and-so. I sent him over the paperwork. The offer was approved, and they are going to try to do a virtual closing. First, we got to do an inspection. If the inspection goes all well, then we have to do a virtual closing. He also told me that he put down earnest money on the home. He put down, I believe, $5,000. He said, I just transferred the money over to the realtor's account or whatever, so that it could be earnest money for the house. So I'm just like, okay, great. He was like, so realistically, this is April. We should be able to get in that house by June. Okay, no problem. So this is what he told me. About 3 or 4 days later, I get a phone call from the realtor, and the realtor is like, hey, I'm just checking to see what you guys want to do about that house. So I was confused. I'm at work, and I said, oh, I was told that he put an offer in. And the realtor was like, he did? I didn't know that he put an offer in. And I said, well, why wouldn't you know? Like, he told me he put the offer in, and he had paid earnest money, $5,000 earnest money. And so the realtor was like, well, let me call him and find out what's going on with that, because I didn't know anything about it. So red flag, of course. So I call him, and he, in true narcissistic nature, he flips the script, and he like goes off. He's like cussing, going off, like he shouldn't, excuse me, I have the hiccups. He shouldn't be calling you. If he has a question, he should call me, because I'm the one that's on the mortgage. He was like, and now it's going to be an issue. And I said, well, did you put the offer in with him or not? And he said, no, I did not put the offer in with him. I put the offer in with a friend of mine who is a realtor, so I can give him the business. So I did not hear from that realtor again. So I was just like, is the house under contract or is it not? He was like, yes, the house is under contract. This is how crazy things work out. About 3 days later, on realtor.com, I'm looking at the house because I was trying to figure out in my mind how I'm gonna decorate. It shows the house is under contract. So, showed my boyfriend. My boyfriend's like, I told you it was under contract. He was like, I did you not believe me? And I ain't had the heart to say, hell no, I didn't believe you. Like, it seemed too good to be true. But once I saw the house was under contract, I absolutely believe that, okay, it's under contract with him. Like, yeah, we're about to do inspection. We are about to move. And so we had driven by the house because, again, keep in mind, a family's still living there. So we had driven by the house. At this point, he was like, I want us to start looking for furniture so that way we can go ahead and order it. So when it's time to move, the furniture is ready, because, it takes like 6 to 8 weeks sometimes for furniture to be delivered if they don't have it in stock. Like, he was very methodical and planning and saying, this is what we need to do. So we started going to Home Depot, Lowe's, because we had a printout of what the sellers were going to take. They were going to take the appliances. He had a printout. Let me be clear. He had a printout. So it said on there that they were going to take the appliances. So we needed to get a new stove, new refrigerator, new microwave, all that stuff. So we went to Home Depot and Lowe's, and I went ham. I chose all these new appliances, and here's where we get into the shopping. All right, part 4. So we go to Home Depot, we go to Lowe's. I'm choosing all these appliances. He's taking pictures of the SKU number. We have representatives helping us, and he basically explained to them, hey, we're buying a house. We should be closing sometime in June. Can we order this stuff now? Can I put a hold on it? Like, what can we do? Because we're not ready for delivery. I stood there as the Home Depot rep said, we can hold it in our warehouse. Like, you can buy something and we can hold it. People do it all the time, especially with COVID. So I watched him pay. I want to say it was about it was either $350 or $500. I watched him pay a deposit on a whole new set of appliances for them, and they were going to hold it until we were ready for delivery. I watched this. So I was like, okay, good deal. Like, we got the appliances. Next, let's go to Rooms to Go and Ashley Furniture and find actual furniture. So we went all around Rooms to Go. We went to Ashley Furniture. We went to American Signature. And I saw all these things that I wanted. Again, he's taking pictures of it. He was like, I can go online and order it. I didn't think anything of it because, again, I just saw that we held the appliances. So I was like, okay, that's fine. So April turns into May. May 2020 comes. This is where things start to get a little interesting. May comes, and obviously we had not done inspection. And I'm asking him all the time, what's the deal with the house? He was like, oh, because of COVID, they're trying to get someone to do the inspection. But the guy that they had, it was always something. The guy they had caught COVID, so they're going to have to get somebody else. And he's like 15 houses backed up, so it'll be a while. So at this point in May, I know I look crazy. In this point in May of 2020, I started recording audio diaries. I don't know why. It was something just made me just start recording my thoughts in an audio diary, and I still have them. And I would save them by the date, and I would just start talking about what's on my mind. So I was like, I knew there was something was nagging me, like, but I kept pushing it out of my mind. I was like, you saw, this is what I reminded myself. You saw him pay for the appliances. You know the house is under contract. You know that he told you that he's the one who put the house under contract. Why would, like, I remember saying to myself, why would he lie about that? This is so easy to verify. Why would he lie about that? Have you caught him in any other lie? And at the time, the answer was no. So I really was like, maybe you just aren't used to a guy who actually does what he's supposed to do. Like, I was questioning myself and then answering my own questions. So inspection didn't happen. Around mid-May, I found out I was pregnant. May 2020. When I found out I was pregnant, he was ecstatic, and I was like, oh shit. The reason why I was oh shit is because, number one, I'm plus size. Number two, because of my age, I felt like it was probably going to be a high risk pregnancy. And I wasn't married. And that nagged. I cannot tell y'all how much it nagged me. There was a lot of internal struggle in between. My family didn't even know that he had moved in at this point. I told them, that I was pregnant, went to the doctor, everything looked good. But again, because it was COVID, he couldn't go in with me into the actual room. So, doing any sort of ultrasound, doing the blood test, because my HCG levels were really high. So the doctor was like, hey, it might be twins. We don't know yet. You're still kind of early, along. They gave me a due date. The due date was January 26th of 2021. So yeah, May, found out I was pregnant. So there was now more of a push into, we got to get a house. We got to get the fuck up out of here. I'm not having a baby in Riverdale. Okay, nothing against Riverdale, but I ain't having a baby in Riverdale. So we need to find out what's going on with this house. And so he was on top of it. He had an answer for everything. He was like, I'm gonna call and find out what's going on, blah, blah, blah. He then magically told me about a week later, oh, they're going to do inspection on the house like in 2 days. So I was just like, okay, keep in mind, I'm taking his word for it. I'm taking his word for all this. So he's like, they're going to do an inspection. Once we get the inspection report back, then we will know what we are going to be responsible for. What are we getting ourselves into? So, I guess they did an inspection. He showed me an inspection report. Only thing that they said that the roof had just recently been replaced, which I remember he was very happy about. And the issues that there were for the house were minor. It was not a bad, because we did have a discussion about it. He was like, it's nothing that we can't handle. Then he said that we were set to close the end of May. We were set to close the end of May. He told me it was going to be a virtual closing. You're probably like, what the hell is a virtual closing? Because again, he's saying because of COVID, people are not closing in the office. They're doing a virtual closing where you would need to electronically sign the paperwork. This is what he's telling me. And so he was like, we're set to close like just before Memorial Day. And so for some reason, again, there's still that nagging part. For some reason, I didn't start packing. Anyone that knows me will tell you I hate moving. I've done it enough in my life. I hate moving. But I did not start packing up that house at all. I was just like, I'm pregnant. My body was changing so fast that it was like I can barely keep my eyes open half the day. And so, no, I didn't start packing. And I remember I did record, again, I was recording audio diaries just about every day. When something didn't sit right, I would verbally record it in the audio diary because I was like, I don't know what it is, but there's something. That was the theme of our relationship. I don't know what it is, but I know there's something. And so I remember talking to myself in my little prayer closet, because that's where I would do my recordings. And I remember thinking, what if we don't get this house? Like, what if he's lying? But again, there goes that thought process of, why would he lie about this? Like, who makes up that they're buying a house when in fact they're not? And then he's showing you all this paperwork. Like, come on, you can't be that jaded that you don't even believe what's in front of you. All right. So now we're going to go into part 5. Okay, part 5. Who the fuck did I marry? So, I'm questioning all this stuff in my head out loud on my audio diaries. And then once again, I'm like, but look at what he's giving you. Like, he's paying, it wasn't a question about money. It was just a question of, are we really about to move into this house? And keep in mind, he's paying all the household bills. He still is. So we were supposed to close before Memorial Day. We didn't. There was an excuse. There was always an excuse with him. Always an excuse. And I didn't know enough about the process to question stuff because I really wasn't involved the way I should have been. And it was giving me a lot of anxiety. So I'm pregnant with a lot of anxiety. And if I'm gonna be 100% honest with y'all, I was not expecting that I was probably going to have a healthy pregnancy because I was stressed. And what I was stressed about is I didn't know what was going on because I wasn't really involved the way that a normal relationship would be involved. Just being honest. So we did not close. We move now into June. This is now going into June. Around June 5th, I looked at the house again on Realtor.com. I don't know what made me do it other than, and I don't mean to sound super spiritual. I know that people are like, you may or may not believe in God, but I'm telling you, I believe with all my heart. Probably the Holy Spirit was like, look at that house on Realtor.com. So I looked at the house on Realtor.com. This was around June 5th. It showed that the house was off the market. And I remember being like, okay, wait, what does that mean? What does that mean? Because ex-husband is telling me we're about to close on the house. We're about to close. It's our house. We got furniture, da-da-da, da-da-da, da-da-da. He's also telling me that he's been in contact with the realtor, his friend, who was telling him, this is what was happening next. Here's what's going on. So the guy that we initially worked with apparently is completely out of the picture. But again, I was not heavily involved. So I'm just like, let me look at the house. I see it's off market. What the fuck does off market mean? Like, now I'm really freaking out. So it shows the name of the real estate agent for the seller. I don't remember her name. I called her and I said, I said, my husband and I, even though I wasn't married, my husband and I were looking at this house at 123 Main Street. And we really wanted to tour it, but now I'm showing it's off market. Is it not available? Or, I pulled that card and she was like, oh, no, ma'am. The home closed yesterday. It closed June 4th. Again, there are certain dates I just remember. And I said, oh, it closed June 4th? I was like, really? And she said, yes, ma'am. She was like, my sellers sold the house. And I was like, oh, man, okay. Well, I said, my husband and I really wanted, we love the pictures of it. And we're getting ready to start a family. So I would have loved to have been able to, have the opportunity to see it. I asked her something. I don't remember the specific question I asked her. And I know why I asked the question, because I was anticipating that my boyfriend at the time was going to have some sort of excuse. So I asked her something about the buyers. And I remember, and somehow, again, forgive me, I don't remember the question I asked her. But the answer was that it was an older white couple. So I get off the phone with her. I record an audio diary, and in the audio diary, I specifically say, okay, there is no house. he's going to have to get out of this lie somehow. Because now I realize, at the very least, he was lying about him being the one who was under contract. I knew enough about that. So I was like, what, how is he going to get out of this? Again, I've listened to the audio diary in 2024. I literally said in that audio diary, how is he going to get out of this lie? And I was trying to think of ways on how he's going to do it. And something said to me, because I say it on the audio diary, I said, he's going to say it's a bad deal. And he's going to say he wants to pull out. Y'all keep in mind, I am pregnant. So I had a decision to make. As ugly as this decision was, I made the decision, you're about to have a baby with this man. He's paying all the household bills. Let him get out of the lie. And that's what I did. I purposely made the decision that I knew he was going to come back, and I knew he was going to give me some bullshit on why he couldn't buy the house, because he didn't know that I knew that house is already sold. The house is already sold. And this is the part where I said, I'm gonna be honest, even though it's gonna make me look bad, because most women in their right mind would have been like, I'm out, and I didn't. So sure enough, he came home. He didn't really say anything that day. The next day I asked him about the house, and he said, my friend, the realtor, he was like, I'm talking to him because something's going on with the interest rate. And when he said that, I felt so much relief, because I knew that I had been prepared for, he's going to give you some bullshit. So when he said there's something with the interest rate, I said, you know what? If this is literally what I said, y'all. If the interest rate isn't good, then we shouldn't move there. We should probably let this house go. We should cancel whatever furniture we ordered, or, appliances, and let's just look for another house. I said, I would like to be moved before the end of the year. I said, I really don't want to be 9 months pregnant moving into a house. I would like to be done with this before then. And the way I said it was so calm, and he was like, okay. He was like, I'm gonna call the friend, the realtor, and tell him I'm backing out of the house, and I'm gonna see if I can get my earnest money back. And I remember looking at him. I was standing in the kitchen, and I cocked my head to the side, and I said, okay, get your earnest money back, and let's find another house. And so that's how that first house fell through. So fast forward, I keep looking at this to see how much time I have, because they only give you 10 minutes. So this is part 5. Part 6 is coming up. But subsequently, what ends up happening the next week, which is mid-June, I was at work, and I started cramping, started bleeding. And at this point, my doctor, I had just had an ultrasound earlier that day. So I went to work, because the ultrasound was fine. I went to work, and the cramping and the bleeding started, and I started crying because I kind of knew what was going on. And my doctor had called me and told me that when they did the ultrasound, they did not see a heartbeat. So she was like, this pregnancy is not going to be viable. So I'm crying, hysterical, and now we're going to get into part 6.